Okay. The window doesn't want to capture it, and it's fine. There it is. Yeah. Okay, so this is the second installment of the every single Warhammer 40k faction explained. I did the first one. A few people liked it, and one guy was like, hey, I can't wait for part 2, so I'm gonna watch here I am, I'm gonna watch part 2. So I'm gonna turn off the background so I can hear this. All right, there we go. They're both on the chat setting, so it is what it is. All right, here we go.
Two-part series on the Warhammer races. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, we do the Imperium of Man. You can check that out in the description.
Yep, watch
and I highly
that.
recommend you watch
Wild.
that to get context for this episode. If you already have, go ahead and keep on watching. So after an entire episode of nothing but humans, we can now talk about chaos.
All right,
which involves humans
here
again.
we go with
a
the
little bit less. We also got
insanity.
demons and shit.
I just felt someone
Chaos
grab my
demons?
ass.
Demons?
Like
Okay.
hard, Nick.
So, as I've mentioned many times
Oh,
before,
he's
we
changed his legs
discussed
again.
the warp, the immaterium, the hellish landscape, the purgatory dimension realm between the material realm of our existence.
Okay.
Now, in the warp, it's terrifying, horrible. There are demons everywhere. Things are
It's
crazy.
horrible
All
in the
your
regular
minds,
world.
thoughts, and emotions get projected there. It is both formless and empty. It is vast and tiny.
And
it
pixelated.
Obeys the laws of time and physics while simultaneously does absolutely nothing of the sort. It is a hodgepodge and a culmination of just unknowable, eldritch, horrifying shit. And there are 4 gods that
Can I not go
permeate
there?
in chaos and the warp.
Let me move
These are
over a
the
little bit.
4 major chaos gods. And if we wish to learn
There we
about
go.
chaos, we need to learn about each and every single one of these chaos gods. First up, we have Khorne, and he is the easiest. Khorne is your classic Satan. He is all about anger, murder, fighting, blood, guts, death. You ever heard the term blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne? That
Only through Badger, which, yeah, they said that a lot.
Khorne. The whole idea is that he is all about the fury and strength of battle. He doesn't care where blood comes from, so long as blood is flowing. He wants to fight and murder and carnage and slaughter and death, 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 death. That is Khorne. Very simple to understand. Next up, you have Tzeentch, and Tzeentch is
Ooh,
the god of
he's
change.
creepy.
However, the god of change, it's permeates in so many different other ways. He's the most eldritch of all the demon gods. He has this weird way to always be plucking at the strings of the universe. He's always conniving,
why you're sideways?
scheming, and doing his best to cause as much little bullshit as he can.
He's treacherous.
Tzeentch is
Got it.
unknowable. Everything
Whoa,
that
look
makes
at them.
sense, he will
Damn.
and won't
Those eyes?
do. Every future and setting and every
He's got
type
eyes in his
of,
hands. What the fuck?
destiny or fate is all foretold and also changeable. It is set in stone while also completely random. He knows what everything is going to happen and also that none of it's going to happen. You would ask
What the
Tzeentch a question.
fuck?
That question leads to 3 more questions, and those questions lead to the heat death of the universe, which asks 4 answers to those questions. And then he thinks to himself, what are questions even really? And are you even asking the questions, or are you simply giving paths to answers and other horse shit?
My head hurts. I can't do that. That's too much, man. Chill.
Tzeentch is just, I'm gonna fuck with stuff. He is yes and he is no. He is the understanding and he is complexity. He is unknowable.
He needs
And that's
to
what
stop.
the God of Change is about. Very bizarre. And he likes birds a lot. I don't know why. Next up, we got Papa Nurgle. Papa
Ooh.
Nurgle, he loves you for who you are.
Nurgle.
Probably not. He will murder you just the same. But Papa Nurgle is about rot,
He looks like
pestilence,
Gluttony.
death, and decay. He is the end of everything. Him and Tzeentch do not like each other very much because where Tzeentch represents change and adjustment, Nurgle represents stagnation and death. He is all about miasma and pestilence and large bloat and pus and organs and people just being
don't like
sedentary,
that.
sloth. He is the idea that everything will rot and decay and die. Nothing is certain besides decay and death. All of us will end up the same way, and broken down through just sheer never-ending decomposition.
I don't like
so
this.
the joke that Nurgle always
Fucking Cyclops unicorns. What is this? Oh, they're like zombies, but worse. Oh.
loves you is generally because of that. Because we all end up the same. We all rot. We all die and wither. That's Nurgle, and he's got a general theme of course, pestilence and different kinds of diseases and sickness and things of that nature. That's generally niceness. Nurgle. He's pretty easy to understand as well, and he chunk. Finally, we have the youngest of the Chaos.
Man, you can't do this to us. Come on. That's what we just saw. Come on, bro.
That is Slaanesh, also known as the Prince of Pleasure or the God of Unspeakable
Prince of Pleasure. Okay. You know what? I don't judge.
Excess. Slaanesh is generally referred to with sex, but it's not only sex.
Fair.
It's just that's a good avenue if you want to make stuff. Slaanesh is just the idea of the senses of the body being cranked to not just 11, but more like 17. So we'll discuss Slaanesh a little bit more.
She's ecstasy? Is that what this is?
Or when we talk about the Eldar, because they done fucked up. But she...
What?
He... It, or whatever, is mainly about just the excess of emotions. And therefore, sex is generally a large part of it. However, it's mostly pain and torture.
Humanity is pretty
horny.
horny.
Lots of pain, torture, but sometimes sexually related or drug related. Lots of drugs.
That looks like
Slaanesh gets
something
off
related.
on every...
Yo, she had... What was that? I noticed she's got fucking teeth in her tongue. What fresh hell is this? I was sort of distracted over here at first, like, oh, she's got a lot of piercings and stuff. All right, that's cool. And then right as it switched, I saw this horrific thing. Jesus fucking Christ.
Lots of pain, torture, but sometimes sexually related or drug related. Lots of drugs. Lots of drugs. Slaanesh gets off on everything. Extremes in happiness, extremes in sadness, extremes in pain and sadism and masochism.
All over the place.
And of course that goes along with the sex part of it as well. It's generally referred to with sex because of the color scheme, very purple, lots of exposed genitalia. A lot of their models have like exposed nipples and stuff. And that is generally the theme you go for from a physical side, but it really embodies everything, mainly pain and also the excessive amounts of emotion. So when it comes down to it, you'll find a lot of them have things like spikes.
I thought she had 6 tits. It kind of looks that way. One kind of got that nipple, cover, got them pasties going on. That's what I thought at first. Not gonna lie.
Or whips, or any kind of BDSM style gear, because it is unspeakable excess. The Prince of Pleasure. Everything in excess to the point where it is just sheer frightening. That is Slaanesh in a nutshell. A little bit bizarre and a little hard to describe sometimes. But as we talk more about the Dark Eldar later,
there's a whole lot going on right there.
Far, far better, and far more than you'd want to. Now you might be thinking, why would anyone ever want to join Chaos? They all look horrifying, screwed up, and just frightening things, right? Well, the thing is that, of course, one, your mind is put into the warp and the Immaterium, so you can be easily swayed by Chaos Demons when they get into your head, especially if you're a psychic. Sometimes regiments of the less mentally strong people, whether they be civilians or, say, low-level guardsmen or conscripts, can be easily swayed by this and become Chaos cultists and stuff. And they serve their dark gods and whatever god they personally refer. However, and this might seem strange, Chaos in their own right isn't necessarily evil. See, the warp is
everything you just described says otherwise, but continue.
Manifestation of emotion and being, every soul, everything of existence. This includes all the good things. All the different Chaos gods have another side to their coin. Khorne might be death, murder, slaughter, slaughter, but he's also got this weird sense of survival of the fittest, trial by combat, and honor. Khorne will never lie to you. Khorne will never stab you in the back. Khorne isn't about conniving and scheming. Khorne is about straight up mono-e-mono, you versus me, get in the ring, we're gonna murder each other hard.
I can respect that, alright.
May not be a good thing at the end of the day, but it is that other side of the coin. Him and Tzeentch generally don't get along because Tzeentch is that conniving schemer, but he's also about the idea of hope. Where there is change for your predicament. There is change for your problem. The hope of the galaxy, the ability to bend the world to your will, the idea that your fate is not set in stone, but in reality that you control your own destiny and can control it whenever you want. The changer of ways. That is Tzeentch.
That's fucking deep for a dude who looks like he's about to eat your soul, but all right, that's cool.
And of course, Tzeentch and Nurgle hate each other because while Nurgle does represent stagnation, death, and decay, he also represents finality and ending. The fact that you can be mentally at peace knowing that you will end and how you will end. Fear of the unknown, fear of change is not present with Nurgle. With Nurgle, everything will rot and die, and that provides that finality, that ability that this is over. We are all the same, and we will all end the same. We know the meaning of life. The meaning of life is to live and die and rot. And with that, it brings peace of mind. Slaanesh is a lot more simple. While they are the excess of emotion, they are also the representation of emotion.
I need something.
Slaanesh embodies happiness. Slaanesh embodies excitement and joy and pleasure, not only in the sense of the physical, you know, bam style of pleasure, but also everything else like food and drink and air on your cheek and sunlight, the feeling, emotion and feeling. All of that is also represented with Slaanesh. So you have to ask, why are they always represented as super evil skulls and spikes on everything and want to murder everybody? I don't really got an answer for you on that one. My assumption is that because mentally humans may think worse thoughts, even if we don't act on them, and therefore they're projected in the warp more. That one's a little bit weird. I don't know. This is me spitballing right now, but I don't know. You need a super bad guy. You already got the Imperium of Man. You need somebody to be a little bit worse than them. So you got demons. Honestly, who cares? I just want to buy like a bird magician. Look at him. So cool. So combining all this together on the tabletop, Chaos Demons are generally very melee based. They run in, go really hard. You have lots of summoning and conjuring, tons of spells. Generally a little bit frail, but they have special saves to make them a little bit stronger. You've got giant demons and smaller demons. You got hordes of little boys and tons of big guys. Demons are as they seem. Demons. Nurgle is slow. Khorne is super scary in melee. You've got Tzeentch, who are far more into psychers and spellcasting, and then Slaanesh, who is all melee, really, really, really fast but squishy, but in lots of hordes and tons of melee and pain.
Titties. Yep. Okay.
So overall, the demons are a huge part of 40K and a massive threat to almost every single faction, with the exception of a couple. However, the big part about demons is also transferred into the other 9 Primarchs we didn't talk about, which are the Chaos Space Marines.
Oh, you know what? He did mention there was like a whole subsect last time. So, okay, I guess we're getting into back to Space Marines, but on the not so good side. I would say not so good side, but the good side doesn't seem that great either. After thinking about it, I don't know. All right.
So Horus and all of his boys, all of them the Primarchs, they have all also become Chaos Boys, and they all have their own special Chaos Legions, specializing in so many different things, just like the Adeptus Astartes, the terrible. Death, the regular Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines aren't a whole lot different than the regular Space Marines. They have the same armor, generally the same training and toughness. They just specialize in different kinds of things. And also a lot of the Primarchs have ascended into greater demons. They're demon Primarchs at this point. Gigantic, horrifying man-demon hybrids that are pretty awesome, if I'm going to be honest. They look really, really cool. But them and their associated legions they are a part of are all kind of going out there and causing a large ruckus for everyone else. Considering the raw strength and firepower of a legion of Space Marines, imagine that entire legion just converting to chaos and immediately fighting you. It's generally pretty horrifying. There's a lot of them, so I gotta write them down. But you've got the Emperor's Children with Primarch Fulgrim, loyal to Slaanesh. These people, they are some messed up people. They're just sensory overload.
Look at his face.
Tons of drugs, tons of torture.
Oh my god.
And I think Fulgrim is a demon Primarch right now, and oh god, I am terrified to see what that man looks like. At least on the tabletop.
Not
because
that. It's Snake.
Emperor's children are not
Four-armed
good
snake
people.
man.
You've got the Iron Warriors, which are kind of like opposite of the Imperial Fists, with Primarch Perturabo, I believe is his name. They're Chaos Undivided. They just kind of serve Chaos in a general aspect instead of choosing one of the four. But the Iron Warriors are big on the siege and fortification, and they're basically entirely against
good
the
armor
Imperial
set, though.
Fists
That
and a
looks
major
good.
rival. Perturabo, I believe, is
The
also still
umbral
alive,
kinda look.
and I'm also very interested to see what he looks like.
He has a tiny head
Demon
compared to his
Primarch's
body.
badass. You've got the Night Lords with Primarch Conrad Kurz. Conrad Kurz is dead, which is good because he's a sick fuck. But the Night Lords are generally about
'Cause no one else is.
terrorizing people and terrorism. They're generally about fear, and rightly so. You've got
Yeah.
the World Eaters with Primarch Angron still alive.
Oh my
also
God.
excited to see. Angron, if you think you've known an
fucking
angry
swipe
person,
heads
Angron is
roll.
the angriest son of a bitch you will ever know. Angron removed parts of his brain that didn't make him angry, so he could be angrier. Angron.
He forcibly became the Hulk.
Fucker's mad. You've got the Death Guard with Primarch Mortarion. They actually have their own special codex and their own major army on the tabletop. Mortarion himself is
wow.
actually one of the models, and look at him. Look.
He's kind of sparkly. He's got like gems and stuff all over him. He's got little lights. He's got green and blue, and come down here, he's got yellow. He's got colors. Okay. And demon moth wings. That's cool. That looks like an eyeball. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is. What the fuck?
Look at him. It's so cool
He's
looking.
all over
Of course,
the place.
Nurgle based, obviously. So very slow but very tanky. You've got the Word Bearers with Primarch Lorgar. Lorgar is, I believe, still alive. I don't know what's up with him at the current moment, but the Word Bearers are generally the people who caused all the major problems in the beginning. At least I blame them for it. They're little assholes. You got the Black Legion with Primarch Horus.
Okay.
Get fucked, nerd. You've got the Alpha Legion with Primarch Alfarius Omegon. Chaos,
Tell us how you really feel.
I think. And then finally, you've got the Thousand Sons with Primarch Magnus the Nerd. Thousand Sons also have their own book, just
The
for the Death Guard.
Nerd?
Magnus is also a tabletop
third?
model. He looks super cool, as you can.
What is happening here? He is so horny. He's got horns and he's got nipples for horns. Horns for nipples. You know what I meant. Damn, what the hell?
And they're all super heavily Psyker and kind of Egyptian themed. They look pretty neat. But overall, with all of these Chaos Space Marine factions,
What?
you can play as a lot of different ones, but the main ones that you can really work at are standard Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, as well as the Death Guard and Thousand Sons, as they are the most fleshed out, especially on the tabletop at least.
That's so
See this right
weird.
here? This is a
Uh-oh.
really good way to describe the Chaos Space Marines.
Exposition.
What the thick-headed fools with their broken corpse of an emperor fail to understand is that not only can they never defeat us, but they cannot hide or flee or shield themselves from the triumph of chaos. They are finite and we are unbound, undivided. They must not err, or they shall fall to heresy. All who fall join our cause.
Damn.
Every imperial fool who dares to open his eyes is a willing recruit. They strive merely to hold back our fury and might, and it consumes them. Thus, you can see chaos is inevitable. We lurk not only beyond their grasp and at their gates, we lurk within the darkness of their souls, on the tip of their
Oh, I
tongues,
see where his
in their
cursor was. I
tortured
see it.
dreams. We are them,
right here.
but freed from the shackles of ignorance. We are them, grown strong, evolved.
This
we
is
are
some
them,
deep shit.
but so much more. As hardcore as that
Wow.
quote is, the saddest part is they're
Oh,
mostly
shit.
right. Chaos is basically unkillable. You could probably get rid of Space Marines, a decent amount, the Chaos Space Marines that is, but every soul that dies goes to the warp. Every Chaos soul will end up back in the warp. And depending on how hard you killed them, they will come back at some point. Every
Wow.
demon you banish will return at some point. Chaos is unstoppable. The warp is unending. And while maybe there is at some point some way to stop them somehow, the
Can't stop them all.
resources to do so, the requirements to do so, are so far beyond the reaches of man and the other races at the current moment that really it's just an unstoppable force that
It's
just
inevitable.
keeps
What's the
on
point?
coming, and it's just barely being slowed. Chaos is by far the biggest threat. They are without number, their legions are everywhere, and yeah, they're pretty scary. So, I promise, we're done with humans now. Let's talk about some Xeno.
He said we're finally done with humans. Oh man, we're about about 1/3 through the video, and we're just now. It's like, all right, let's get to the really fucked up shit. We're already through demons, chaos gods, and the chaos marines. So it's like, I already said last video, yo, this universe sucks. Fuck that.
Yos.
God damn. The Eldar. Okay.
So let's talk about the Eldar, or also known as the
don't know too
Eldari,
much.
which are a super hyper specialized and very technologically
Okay.
advanced race of, well, elf people. They were as well responsible for the creation of Slaanesh, the newest demon god. How they
Oh, the
do
sexy
that?
one. Got it.
Debauchery on a world-ending scale. See, back in the day, it was just Khorne, Tzeentch, and Nurgle. And the Eldar are very, very ancient. Millions of years. These Eldar,
Ooh,
however,
millions.
have a bit of a sensory problem. Every kind of pain or feeling that you have is a little bit amplified compared to the normal. However, with Eldar, as their race advanced so excessively, and they became so self-reliant, and everything became so easy, there was no
Okay.
requirement for food production
They became
anymore. There was
soft?
no shortages. Everything was basically done. Everyone was so comfortable, and that comfort breeded this weird sedation, and that sedation breeded the requirement for more and more debauchery. When everything you have can be so easily acquired,
Oh,
you will
man.
end up down this road
I don't wanna fight
of
him.
pure debauchery.
I don't wanna meet him at
the
all.
senses the
Him
Eldar
either.
had that were so powerful, things like feeling, happiness, sadness, and just evil and good, all needed to be satisfied and satiated. And the desire to satiate these senses grew more and more with worse and worse debauchery.
It's like that video game where it's like, here, take your joy. I don't know what video game that was, but jeez. Worse and worse things become more and more like, oh, wow, ugh.
It started
It's
off
weird.
with things like sex and drugs becoming so much more
The rock stars. Damn, AC/DC. Let's go.
rampant because these are the first things you generally turn to when requirements for living are so easily accessible. It would get to the point that made
They're
Sander
bored.
Cohen in Bioshock look sane. All right,
Ugh.
this is the kind of debauchery it led to.
Wow.
It was constantly satisfying and satiating these sexual and sadistic or masochistic fantasies that only elevated and elevated. And this was species wide. People started going down darker, more depraved, and more violent paths as
Darker?
time went on.
Got
However,
slaves
some
walking
people
around in
didn't entirely
fucking
take to that.
chains.
Some of the Eldar were looking at this depraved species that they had become and said, no thanks for me, dog, I'm good. And they bailed. These are the Craft World Eldar. They left on these giant continent-sized starships called
Okay.
Craft Worlds. They believed in learning the old ways of the Eldar and pushing away from this depravity and debauchery and going back to their main roots. And so they would segment themselves on these giant craft worlds far in the outer
Wow.
reaches of space. They even
Of
had
the
this thing called the
continent size.
Webway. Remember what we mentioned about warp travel with the Imperium? Well, the
Mhm.
Eldar had something way safer called a Webway. And the Eldar Webway is actually like a pocket dimension kind of thing. And in that pocket dimension, there were also more horrible, depraved groups and clans that would spend their time in there. And if you imagine the debauchery was bad already,
What?
these were debauchery X10. So all of this continued, and it continued, and it bloated until Slaanesh just burst forth.
This entire universe is just fucked up. Like, every bit of it, every inch. Like, you couldn't find a square inch in this motherfucker that is sane. You could look in the middle of the planet. There's something fucked up with it. Because, god damn, this dude has traveled multiple dimensions. He's like, it's even worse in this place. Like, Jesus Christ, guy. Come on.
All that emotion, all that mental, well, thought processes, I suppose,
And then here's your sexy demon, is what I'm hearing, hopefully.
All of this in such a condensed space. Don't forget, this is all being shot, all their souls as well, into the warp.
Okay.
All of this depravity right into the warp. So what happened? Boom! Slaanesh was birthed and killed off 90% of the entire Eldar population.
Wow.
Untold trillions
Fucking
had their souls ripped from their bodies and their actual fleshy bodies devoured by Slaanesh demons.
Man.
The entirety of the Eldar race was eaten alive
Fucking
and their
worse than
souls
Thanos.
consumed to the Prince of Pleasure.
Thanos be damned. He's a bitch compared to her.
All of them got fucked up. It was so bad that it literally ripped a warp hole into the fabric of the materium called the Eye of Terror. That's literally this like quasi horrifying gateway portal from the materium and the immaterium right next to Cadia. And it is horrifying.
What the fuck is with Cadia? He's done that multiple times. Do I need to look this shit up? Or is he gonna explain it one of these days? I have no... I can imagine it's nothing good, judging by his reaction, but I'm just curious now.
So this Slaanesh, also known as She Who Thirsts by the Eldar,
Corny of
slaughtered
man.
the entire population except for a couple. Those in the craft worlds were actually not affected by this as they were so far in the reaches of the galaxy. That crazy crack, that birth of Slaanesh only affected the ones in the center. So these craft world Eldar were able to escape, but Slaanesh got their sights on them. Every time an Eldar will die, their soul doesn't just pass into the warp naturally. It goes straight to Slaanesh. Craft world or not. What about those people in the webway? Well, imagine that giant birth happening, but they were only able to just barely get a grasp onto you. Slaanesh was just barely able to hold on. These people are the...
You censor sometimes, but in the close-ups, but not the fars. I'm confused.
Dark Eldar, or also known as the Drukhari. The Eldar population right now is so massively small.
Okay.
It is minuscule compared to any of the other most of the other populations in the universe. The Eldar are consistently having issues trying to get their population up because as their souls are constantly being hungered by from Slaanesh, they realize their entire species is doomed. And they understand it very well. Since the time of the fall, our race has been haunted by what we, in our reckless pursuit of hedonistic indulgence, gave birth to. Though our dreams once overturned worlds and quenched suns, we are now but fitful shadows clinging to the edge of existence. All the stars in the sky cannot blot out the hateful glare of the red moon's eye. The birthing place of the great enemy pulses with all the malice of a demon that is dreaming, casting its shadow over all we have ever done and all we ever shall. Every twisted strand of fate and casting of the runes leads me to this time, to this place, and it is clear that the final battle awaits me at the ancient Crone Worlds. A conflict the likes of which has not been seen since the Mon-Kai warred amongst themselves and their corpse of a seer fell to his traitorous son. Is coming, and all my steps lead towards it, no matter that I walk other paths. I see the stars stained red with the blood of the Mon-Kai, and though their wars do not concern me, I would gladly let them destroy one another. I know that to avoid this fight is to condemn my race to inevitable doom, and though all I see is darkness, I know that I will not flinch from my destiny. And now let's talk about cute plastic models.
Bro, I'm straight up not having a good time.
The first playable race we have for the Eldar are the Craft World Eldar and living in those Craft World starships I mentioned earlier. And each of them have their own kind of Craft World, almost like a Space Marine Legion. Each Craft World is in itself its own special kind of group. And the Eldar themselves are very fast and rely a lot on trickery. They are squishy, a bit weak, but they're very in tune as Psykers. Tons of Psykers across the entire Eldar population, and their weaponry and abilities are fast and extremely hard-hitting, but of course rather fragile. Understanding an Eldar's brain is an exercise in
so they're glass cannons, is what I'm hearing.
Futility. They are all over the place in confusion and trickery on a whole galactic scale. They fight weird,
Okay.
they think weirder, and Eldar, in their own right, really rely on this to keep their species alive. They need to think about
To be
deception
random?
and the strangeness of what they do if they truly want to not be immediately murdered and slaughtered wholesale thanks to their entirely small population. However, I must say that it seems like their population is getting slightly better. These craft worlds hold
Okay.
millions upon millions of people. And as they continually, reproduce and have their craft worlds expand, losing a few people in battle, while hurts a lot, they aren't really losing what's extremely precious to them. It's not like every single death means the death of their species. It seems like they're kind of on the upturn a little bit. They're still a doomed race being sucked into Slaanesh every time someone dies, but they're definitely doing a little bit better than they were before.
Yeah,
Eldar are
I
fast,
guess.
cunning,
Sure.
and what they don't make up for in tankiness, they make up for in extremely advanced weaponry. They also call humans Monkai, which is something I mentioned earlier.
Monkai?
That is a derogatory slur
It sounds like monkey, so yeah, I can see that. Fucking rude.
for humans in the Warhammer world. Why is it called Monkai? Well, it's because you can't, in your game, call people monkeys.
How much is bullshit, but it's not true. I had a feeling that's what it was kind of alluding to, but the have it confirmed immediately after is great. Oh, assholes. All right, cool. Got it.
On the tabletop, exactly what I said.
Oh, that color scheme. You need to fix that. I want my enemy to know exactly where I'm at.
Not very tanky, generally pretty squishy,
Yeah.
hit like trucks and move at Mach 5.
Oh.
Fast, hit
Okay.
hard, die fast. Exactly how it sounds. They've been good for a very long time,
Cool.
too.
Cool.
We bring only death and leave only carry on. It is a message
Okay.
even a
Can you
human
sneeze? Hold on.
can understand. Eldar. So, Drukhari. Let's talk about the Dark
Hope you didn't
Eldar.
hear that. Oh, hello there.
Of how fucked up is fucked up.
That's fucked up.
So those people I mentioned in the Webway, in the super deranged cults,
Ooh,
and
that
the
looks
depraved people of the Eldar, in the
Apocalyptic.
Webway, they didn't quite
That looks
get
gothic.
a hold onto them. Slaanesh has them, but it has them on by the pinky finger, and they're slowly being consumed by Slaanesh. But they found out
By the
they can
pinky?
stave her off by doing Slaanesh things. The Dark Eldar are by far
I don't know what
the
that means.
worst, most horrifying, disgusting, depraved, and brutal race in all of Warhammer 40k. These are
That's saying a lot.
entirely a group of people whose full purpose to save their species from extinction, to go into planets, raid them, and take as many slaves as they possibly can to torture them for 1, 5, 10, 20, a million years, because that torture will keep them from dying.
God damn. One day you're farming, the next you're a prisoner for the next 200,000 years. God damn.
They look very BDSM style too. They definitely have a lot more spiky
Noted.
bits, and they have a lot more of that kind of leathery black look to them. But let's
What do you look like you're out of Skyrim? Like, kind of.
example. Let's say you are an upstanding Imperial citizen living life on a regular
about that.
planet. You get invaded by the Necrons. The Necrons will shoot you with a deatomizer,
Okay.
and you will be destroyed in a millisecond, and that's it.
Okay.
Not the worst way to go.
Tracking.
You are invaded by Chaos Marines or something.
Got
you take
it.
a bolter shot to the head or a chain sword across your stomach, and you get cut in half.
Okay.
Painful, but not the worst. The orcs arrive. They beat you to death.
Not the worst getting cut in
Hurts,
half.
but
Whatever.
whatever. Tyranids, they eat you alive.
Okay.
Pretty rough. The Dark Eldar. The Dark Eldar. This is going to get a little graphic. I apologize. You pray you die.
Okay.
You don't. You are instead taken as a human slave. Your life will be endless work and agony, 24/7. They will make sure you can't not die, as your pain satisfies them. They will hook you up to all manner of torture devices. They will inject pain-based stimuli drugs directly into your nervous system. They will slowly run razor blades across your skin. They will fillet you. and pull out your teeth and your fingernails one by one. They will remove your appendages and your skin and wait for it to grow back so they can do it again. They will murder and torture and use the R word. It rhymes with grape. Your entire
Stop. Stop. Come on, man. Oh my god. You need to stop. Oh, what is this universe? Who made this? What was your childhood like? What the fuck? I'm glad he's describing it in a, hey, this is lore accurate, but god damn.
entire family in front of you
Jesus
and do the exact same
Christ.
thing to them. You yourself will also be rhymes with grape anywhere and everywhere possible, and this will occur for 20 years until you are no longer satisfying to them. And then you will be contorted, crushed,
What?
and twisted into some form of trophy, a fleshy trophy, or a ring, or a couch, or a TV stand,
What the fuck?
or perhaps a wonderful hat, while you are, of course, still alive and breathing. And you will become a moaning, fleshy trophy for eternity.
What
that
the fuck is
what happens
this?
when you are taken by
What?
the Dark Eldar. They are the most depraved, most horrifying race
damn.
in all of 40k. They look the part, and they do it so they all don't die. They are literally forced to do this, because if they don't, Slaanesh's grip will get harder, and they will have their souls pulled away. So long as they keep doing this, Slaanesh is like, "You're doing good, man. You're doing solid. You keep that shit up, you elf-eared bastards." That's the Dark Eldar. That's the Drukhari. They are horrible. On the tabletop, they're actually kind of like Eldar, but more extreme. They are
God
even
damn.
squishier than the Eldar, but they hit generally even harder. Fast attacks,
They're even more
skirmishers,
glass
really
cannony?
quick, speedy, like get around them, do a lot of damage, get away kind of stuff. That's most of the Dark Eldar. Look up the definition of grim dark in a dictionary. You'll find a picture of the Dark Eldar. And Sev from Public Commando. A quote from Mr. Vec.
Lords of Despair.
"We are the Lords of Despair, masters of terror. Dread and agony are our meat and wine, and they are plentiful indeed."
I mean, in 40k,
Dark
yeah.
Eldar.
Makes
Talk about the
sense.
Harlequins. Clowns.
The Harlequins? The Harley Quinns? Okay.
Don't you want to have some fun?
The Harlequins are
No.
a bizarre race of Eldar.
Yeah,
They're
no shit.
demonic clown performers. They're like a weird
What?
mix of Sander Cohen from BioShock and Jin from League of Legends, but in a more
Ooh.
clown theme. They're
Ooh.
artists of death
Okay.
and perfecters of their craft. They do not belong to Craft Worlds or any of the weird Drukhari people. They guard something called the Black Library, which is this
Mhm.
giant tome of never-ending knowledge
Whoa,
deep
look
in
at that
the
guy.
heart.
Look at him. He's all decked out. He looks like he hit legendary status in Smite.
of the Eldar Webway, and also guarded by their god named Kegorok, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He is the laughing god, but it's the Eldar's
that's fair.
laughing god, and these are the Harlequins, the Harlequin clowns. These are Eldar clowns.
Ooh, that's
Okay,
not good.
so imagine the things that an Eldar, these depraved individuals,
laugh
would
at.
find funny.
Oh. And they grape people on a constant basis, and that's just a Tuesday for them? I don't even know.
And this is the god of that.
Ooh.
It's a horror clown. These are gods of horror for us normal people. For them, they're like, oh, it's so funny. They're all dying horribly. Honk, honk. They're very bizarre and
Jesus.
difficult to describe. They've escaped the ruinous
Ugh.
powers of Slaanesh somehow, but their main thing is guarding that Black Library. And the Harlequins just... They're
What's-
demon clown performers. They're barely
They're what it strives to be.
any models on the tabletop. They're good in melee. They're demon clowns. I'm not sure. I got a quote.
I'm
It is too
uncomfortable.
easy for an Eldar to embrace the obscene virtues of chaos, for Slaanesh
Okay.
is nothing more than a manifestation of the Eldar mind in its most wild and unconstrained form. Human morality is meaningless to the Eldar, and to the dark side of the Eldar mind, all life is to be expended at a whim. Cruelty and generosity are but the impulse of a moment. Beauty and sensuality are virtues that can be expressed in bloodshed
Sorry,
just
I'm
as
actually
easily
reading.
as in song. To an unfettered
What the
Eldar mind, there is neither sanity nor madness, but merely a wave of perfect existence fulfilled by its own savage momentum.
I mean, that's profound and that's, you know, awesome writing. That's cool, but having a legion of murderous clowns? God damn. Jesus
They're very
Christ.
strange. Harlequins, Drukhari, Eldar, they are an anomaly that make humans seem completely easy to understand in comparison.
Yeah,
They
no
range
shit.
from rekindling their civilization to horrifying murder and also clowns. They're all over the place, but honestly, they represent it quite well and are rather interesting, especially with the whole Slaanesh murdering everyone bit. So, yeah, Eldar. Now,
God damn.
bugs.
Jesus criminy. Not only are you spiky, that moon is spiky. Jesus Christ. An everlasting gobstopper wouldn't last 5 minutes with you. Jesus.
Ma, they following me, Ma. They following me. These, the bugs.
The bugs.
The
The
Tyranids.
bugs.
Now, you want to talk something a lot more fun, a little more.
Now, I only know the Tyranids from the Russian Badger. And that's cool. But Jesus Christ, look at them tentacles right now. Tentacles on one side, looks like a monster on the left who apparently serves the Emperor because he's wearing the skull sigil. But the Zerg versus everyone else is kind of what I'm getting the vibe. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll see. All right, let's fucking get this again.
More simple than all this crazy Eldar shenanigans. Let's talk the
Hold on,
Tyranids.
someone
They're
text me.
bugs. Do they look like Zerg? Hell yeah, they look like Zerg. You want to know why they look like Zerg? Because they were actually supposed to be what Zerg were. Apparently, StarCraft was supposed to be.
I was just talking Zerg because of the likeness, but I didn't realize that that's what the Zerg were supposed to be. Because, sorry, I'm messing with my phone. I ain't gonna lie, if that's what the Zerg was supposed to be, they missed the motherfucking mark. Because, damn. And I ain't gonna lie, Kerrigan looks good. And Kerrigan looks good. I'm just saying, it looks good. I don't know what they're playing right now. Having a drink. They got some apple juice, some grapes, got a beer maybe. I don't know what this is. Someone's smoking a stogie. I don't know if it's a Zerg guy over here, but probably him. All right, cool. I like
A
it.
40k game in the beginning, hence why they look so much like Eldar, Zerg, and the Imperium of Man. Like, kind of Space Marine-y. Those Marines, huh? They look a little bit
Mhm.
Space Marine-y to me. Maybe. I don't know. You
Copyright be damned.
really fucked up on that one, Games Workshop, didn't ya? Tyranids are a giant infestation of
Ugh.
unfathomable proportions. These are giant,
God damn.
extremely bio-advanced hive mind organisms that are basically all about absorbing as much biomass as they possibly can to evolve and mutate to be extremely potent and powerful.
They're the Flood,
and kill and eat
but worse.
anything in their path. They are probably the least
God
evil
damn.
faction in all of
Look at
40k.
him. All right, other than the fact that it is a horrifying mass of pointy not goodness, he has a lot of vibrant colors on him. Got a lot of green, some red, some blues, some yellows. Props to the artist who designed this, because that is fucking wild.
Because all they want to do is eat shit. They want to om nom nom the entire galaxy. They hangry and we food. Also, this Tyranid hive mind has a presence in the warp. In fact, Tyranids in their own
like a
right have a
Hydralisk.
massive presence in the warp. They have a thing called the shadow in the warp specifically,
shadow
where
in
when
the
they are
warp.
coming in to invade a planet, they
Mhm.
have this weird ability to kind of cut off the warp on all the psychers on that planet. And how do you get help across the stars? Well, you need the warp because you need that for interstellar travel. So with people unable to call for help from the Tyranids, these are just easy pickings.
Yeah.
And an entire giant Tyranid hive fleet comes out of orbit
Just
and
decimate
just will
planets.
massacre, absorbing all that biomass and turning them and all of their
Hell
other
yeah.
Tyranids into even more advanced monsters. They come in so many
God
varieties
damn.
too, all based on what is important. Tiny little Ripper swarms for scouting and having little dudes eat people up, to the Hormigons, Termagons, and Gene Stealers, all the way to the Hive Guard and
Gene
the Exocrines and
Stealers? What the
Swarm
fuck is
Lord,
a Gene
to Hive
Stealer?
Tyrants and their giant battle
Whoa.
fleets, and even something as crazy as the Hierophant Bio Titan.
God. The Bio Titan? Look at this dude. Oh my. Alright, just kill me and be done with it. I just want to be
The
done.
Tyranids come in all forms and sizes depending on what they require. They are extremely good at anti-biological weaponry. There is no way you can plank them or
Really?
light them. They have extremely strong armor, carapaces and such.
Mhm.
Tyranids are nigh perfect organisms and are pretty
Wow.
spooky
He's
when
got
it
a
comes
fucking
down to
sword.
how they handle all of their genetic material. Keep
Yeah.
feeding them, they'll keep evolving. They keep on creating
Really?
new, horrifying organisms to spread across the galaxy.
Oh, we
And
learned
you know
about
what
the
the most
Rambo guys.
terrifying part of the Tyranids is? We might be surrounded. There have been like around 6 or 7 Tyranid hive fleets.
I can't tell. It's all fucking pixels, but okay.
Behemoth, Kronos, all these different kinds of hive fleets. And they've all arrived in the galaxy
Okay.
from different points. Different sections of the Milky Way galaxy have had different Tyranids come through.
Hmm.
And that
Okay.
is horrifying. Because as far as we know, we could just be surrounded on all sides by Tyranids. The only reason you may not
Galaxy-wide.
hear a whole lot about Tyranids is because it's a little bit hard to have a bunch of story off of one hive mind genocidal monsters. All these
Okay.
giant bugs swarming in, killing and eating everybody and evolving.
Mhm.
I mean, as cool as there are, there's some cool characters, the Swarm Lord, Old One Eye. You can't really have a whole bunch of major
Okay.
character-based stories around them. As awesome as they are, they're simple. They want to eat you. They want to eat you and absorb your biomass. They are simple bugs. If you want something a little more complex,
You are
talk
spaghetti.
Gene Stealer
Basic.
cults.
I can have all the pot I want, I get around faster than walking, and wherever I need a seat, I can just sit on my balls.
I don't. God. Jesus Christ. I know what that's from. Fucking South Park. Oh my god. I'm sorry. I had to pause. Oh, I was gonna go do something, but I'll just pour my drink as we do this.
Gene Stealer cults are a special brand of Tyranid that can slowly infect themselves into different kinds of society. And by
What?
infecting them, they can rise up to where they all pray and believe in these regular humans, pray and believe
What the
into their
fuck?
Tyranid hive mind gods. And these brood lords and I think they're called patriarchs all can turn an entire world all based into Gene Stealers. And these are called Gene Stealer cults.
Wow.
An entire hive world of the Imperium can be turned into nothing but servants of the Tyranid masters just by infecting
They're-
them and screwing
oh.
with their genetic code a little bit. They also have this cool like Mad Max
I like
look,
that. That's
which is really
cool.
neat. They
I
are
like
definitely
that.
one of the bigger threats to the Imperium besides Chaos. I keep saying biggest threat to the Imperium.
Biggest threat.
They're up there though,
Quote unquote,
because
right?
you, dingus, stepped on a bug in middle school. Asshole. There is a cancer eating at the Imperium.
Wow.
With each decade,
Yo,
it advances deeper,
that's
leaving drained,
awesome.
dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this
I'm gonna
abomination,
take over this and
has thought and
take what I
purpose that
want from your
functions on an
genes and
unimaginable
I'm
galactic
gonna do what I want.
scale. And all we can do is to try to stop the swarms of bioengineer monsters it unleashes upon us by instinct. We have given the horror a name to salvage our
Yeah.
fears. We call
Tyranid.
it the Tyranid race. But if it is aware of us,
Oh,
it must know
all
us
of them
as
are the
nothing
Tyranids.
but
Okay.
Tyranids. They're cool.
Wow.
But are they as cool as the orcs?
Every screen's gone red. That means I'm super fast.
The
Orcs,
sentient
orcs,
race.
orcs, 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 orcs. I fucking love orcs. So, yes, the
Yeah, bro,
green
take it easy.
monsters, the green tide, the green skins.
The
These
green
orcs,
skins.
they are in fact a race in 40k. The orcs are as exactly what you expect them. They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they have got big old teeth, and they want to kill everything, and there are so many of them. The only reason they haven't taken over the entire
I was
galaxy
gonna
is they
hit pause on that, but never
murdering
mind.
each
Go
other.
back and watch it.
Orcs are so cool. Orcs don't have
Oh, man.
philosophy. Orcs
He's a
don't
pirate
have
captain.
existential
Hell yeah.
crisis. What matters is who's the biggest orc. You listen to that guy because he the biggest orc. He big orc knows
God
best.
damn.
You win through the power of
Space Marine's about to
imagination.
get deleted.
Of all the races I have battled throughout
Really?
the galaxy, the orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic? As an orc, you're enjoying
okay.
life. You're
Fair.
enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can. The biggest orc is the man who understands everything. He is the boss. And orcs have this really weird, like, big, dumb,
Okay.
stereotype British accent, which is just hilarious to me. Those are
What?
orcs. You fight. You like to fight. Your whole
That
purpose
dude
is
is
to
a
fight.
missile.
You wage war because you want to wage war. You got your boss over there, and you better
Ooh.
listen to the boss, because if you don't listen to the boss will squish you and make you an example for the other orcs. And then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead can't fight because the orc dead. Orcs. They scrap
Oh,
together
Christmas.
machines out of parts that don't make any sense, and because
What
they
the fuck?
believe, they have the mental imagination that that machine will
happening?
run, it'll run. If that machine's out of gas, you're driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the biggest orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you is like, oh, Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like, no, we're not. I filled the fucking gas tank up earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh yeah, you did do that. And then you turn the fucking mech back on, and it works again. Does it have gas? Probably not, but it works. The power of imagination.
What is
They
happening
paint
right now?
things red because it makes them think they goes faster. They paint things purple because it's the sneakiest color. You want to know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so. Orcs are also like ancient as hell. They're back in the Eldari time frame. But back then they were called Krorks, and they were much larger and scarier and far more intelligent. Now they're just orcs, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things. But they're pretty spooky.
They smash.
They're not very well armored, but they hit really hard. And it's called the Green Tide because there are so many orcs. There are about as many orcs as there are Tyranids.
Oh,
Maybe
wow.
more. Who knows? But
God
they keep
damn.
on, murdering each other, so it's not too bad of an issue. Orcs
Yeah.
are entirely comic relief. Their stuff
What?
is slapped together that makes no sense. Their vehicles don't work the way they're supposed to, but they work because they think it works, because they imagine
What the
that
heck?
it works. Orcs care only about who is the biggest orc, and they will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the biggest orc, they'll challenge the biggest orc.
Ooh.
And then when they go and they issue a Wa is just war in orc. They
Wa?
murder everybody
The
and
fourth
everything
Wa.
in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited to be hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting
What?
Eldar or the Imperium or Tau or anyone in between. They're just so they
Or
get to
some
beat
random
shit up.
human falling off a cliff.
That's orcs. And on the tabletop,
be
they
eaten.
are a total coin flip, and they're really fun. I have
Really?
never met a salty orc player. I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing. Guardsmen, Imperial Guardsmen,
Okay.
when they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50%
Okay.
chance. Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher because they're well trained.
Okay.
Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're super well
Wow.
trained. Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher. But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot with anything, from the dinkiest pistol to the
Oh.
biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't matter. Half of their stuff will blow up on a whim. One of their
But when they
medics,
hit,
if you roll a 1 to
they
heal
hit hard as
someone,
hell.
you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. They're so wacky and silly. But the thing is if you roll well, you roll high, and you keep rolling high, you are going to crush people. And if you don't, you lose. I mean, that's what you get when you play orcs. That's what happens when you play Orc. It's a coin flip, which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play Orcs, because
I like it.
things won't go your way. It's just the roll of the dice. You're playing a dice game. But if you're going to have fun and you want to be stupid and you want to be silly,
I've never
you're
played
gonna play
tabletop,
some
but
damn
I'm not
Orcs.
gonna lie.
But on the
this
opposite
dude may
side
make
of the
me.
fun part of this, let's talk about the Necrons.
Ooh, Necrons. I've heard of these guys.
The Necrons are spooky, scary skeletons and very grimdark again. They have a much more fleshed out lore than before. Back in the day, they were just
Okay.
undead Egyptian space terminators, and they still look that way, but now they actually have a story. So way back in the day, you had the Necron tier. Kind of see
Okay.
a here, Eldari, Eldar, Krork, Orc, Necron, Necron tier. So the Necron tier were this race of generally
Okay.
kind of shitty people. Not because they were personally shitty, because their lives were awful. They were ill-fated to a
Oh.
horrible existence of like radiation and a terrible planet they lived on, and everything just really sucked. Being a Necron
Yeah, that's
tier
fair.
was just really depressing. They really were looking for immortality. They were extremely reliant on the
Oh.
hope that they would eventually find the key to living forever and to stave off this horrible nature that they were thrust upon them, and therefore they could become the most dominant race in the galaxy.
Ooh.
And they found
okay.
this group. They're called the Old Ones. Imagine them kind of like the Forerunners in Halo or the Xel'Naga in StarCraft, right? These
Okay.
Old Ones were these strong, pretty much omnipotent beings, and they, of course, knew the key to immortality. So the Necrons went to them and said,
Of
"Please,
course they did.
show us your ways."
And they
And
said
the Old
no.
Ones said, "Piss off." Not really. They were a lot more humble about it, but they did not want to share their secret of immortality with the Necrons. The Necrons, of course, took this
Okay.
very well and waged war with them, kind of under this united banner. The Necron different dynasties didn't
Fuck
really
these
like each other,
guys.
but under this one man, the Silent King, he thought the best way to unite his race was to do this giant war with the Old Ones out of spite for them keeping the secret of immortality
Okay.
to them. This was known as the War in Heaven, and this is actually like a multi-stage war. Because during this war in heaven, they discovered the Star Gods, a whole new race of people
Oh.
known as the Catan, or the Catan.
The
These
Catan?
Star Gods
The
were
Catan?
also very much like Old Ones, almost
Was they
omnipotent
settlers?
beings, and they too had the key to immortality. And so the
Okay.
Necrons went to them and said, "Hey, can you help us fight off the Old Ones? Can you help us kill these Old Ones, you, the Catan?" And the Catan said, "Yes, and in fact, we can help provide you with the immortality you so desperately seek." So the
Okay.
Silent King of the Necrons decided to make a pact with the Catan
Ah,
to
you
allow
fucked
them
up.
to accept this generous gift of immortality upon them. But this, of course, had been a horrendous trap, and the Necrons
Shocker.
were dragged in chains to this biotransference where their flesh was stripped from them, replaced with nothing but a metal hollow shell, as their souls were ripped from their body and fed to the Catan. And the Catan
Terrible.
fattened
God
up.
damn.
They got chonk on the souls of the Necrons. As
Yeah.
this was their plan all along, they consumed the flesh and souls of the Necron tier and turned them all into unwilling robotic slaves just to serve their will.
God
And then,
damn.
with their new-founded Necron army, they pointed their guns at the Old Ones,
Of course they
and
did.
the Catan continued their domination of the stars and their genocide.
God
complete
damn.
And full genocide of these Old Ones.
Mm.
The Old Ones did their best to stave it off. They even created other races, the Eldari and the Orcs, to try to fight off the horrifying
Oh.
Necron army and the Catan above them.
It didn't
but there
work.
was absolutely no possible chance for them. And the Old
Yeah.
Ones were absolutely extinguished across the galaxy. Their entire
Wow.
race completely removed. Full on 100%
Fucking
genocide.
deleted.
However, during all this, the Catan, so just infatuated with their victory, started fighting each other for fun, for sport, and for small differences.
Oh, you
doesn't
fucked
matter.
up.
The Catan, with these overpowered people,
Infighting.
they're going to eventually hit each other at some point. And as they began just menially fighting each other, the Eldari and the Orcs actually started pushing on the C'tan's borders a little bit, giving them a little bit of a run for their money. And as this continued, this is when the Silent King, who retained his consciousness, decided to leap into action and start a full-scale revolt against their C'tan masters. And this revolt was bloody, as the entire Necron army was surged off to destroy these star gods. They were able to, just after suffering horror.
Wait, so, like, there's a lot going on here. Gods being destroyed, but gods being also made, and then races being made to serve those gods, and those gods being destroyed, and then those races living on, and then like the before. There's so much happening right now. Like
horrendous losses. Were able to turn the tide of the war, and they took these C'tan and they blasted them, because as these star gods are unkillable, they were able to break them into thousands of shards and entrap them in giant stasis vaults to now actually be slaves to the Necrons. And with the Necrons having the entirety of their old gods enslaved to them, they realized that soon their race was about to be attacked by the overcoming new races, the Eldari and the Orcs. And so what they did is they retreated into giant stasis tombs in order to preserve their energy and their strength for when one day they would be reawakened and they would be able to rule the galaxy that was rightfully theirs. And then some dingus Adeptus Mechanicus guy diddled with a green console, and now the Necrons are back, and they see all these primitive races on their lawns, and they think, get the fuck off of it. So the Necrons are back, super advanced, and they are here to reclaim the galaxy
and upset.
They so rightfully believe is theirs.
Wow.
Now, at tabletop, they're a lot like that. Tons of undead Egyptian skeleton robots that when they die, they just get right back up because they keep on reanimating. Hard to kill. Tons of crazy stuff. You can use the C'tan themselves as units to fight with. Pretty cool.
Wow.
The Necrons are one of the three major events in 40k. The Horus Heresy, the Fall of the Eldar, and the Awakening of the Necrons are all pretty substantial events. And the Necrons themselves are pretty dang cool as well.
Yeah, they look like it.
From a wonderful Dawn of War game. Lucky creatures, as long last you have found the tranquility of death. I was like you once, clinging to life and blind to the truth. When I uncovered the truth, I too shuddered and paled with fear. Deep in these catacombs I was remade. Here my brethren slumbered for eons while the living grew like weed. My Lord knew this day would come. He had plans for us all. We would purge this world once more. So come, poor victims of life. We will grant you tranquility in these crypts. Kronos will be a tomb world once more.
Oh, no.
Necrons are also pretty smug. Trazen the Infinite especially. A little dickhead. But speaking of dickheads, last race. Let's talk the Tau.
Another one?
We made a fucking walkie.
The exact formation of the Tau Empire is not entirely understood. However, a long time ago, many thousands of years ago, in the 40k world that is, some Imperial navigation vessels were going around through different areas, and they saw a primitive race, blue people, smacking each other with sticks and stones. They thought,
fair, just leave them alone.
Dumb Xenos race, who gives a shit? And they bailed. Then this giant warp storm occurred right in that major area, unable to be breached. Then, once that warp storm 6,000 years later subsided, hello, those little sticks. Well, they decided to actually have no war of any kind and all just unite together under one flag of the Tau Empire.
Wow.
And now they have gigantic starships and Gundam robots and lasers and railguns and mechs, and they are here to ruin your day.
Wait. They've never had war before, but they are now experts in war? This doesn't make any sense. How would you know where things went wrong? What to improve? Come on now.
For the greater good. That is generally the Tau Empire. They have this kind of feeling of this homogenous group. all species can go
Yeah.
underneath the banner of the greater good. The greater good is their idea of the fundamental increase and help of all. In fact, they are most likely the most like the Covenant in
Jeez.
Halo,
Oh,
where
that's
they
not
have
good.
the overarching
That's
prophets,
not
being
good.
the Ethereals, who are actually kind of dicks and like to
Yeah.
pull at strings a little bit. But then you have all these different races directly underneath them, and they all work together in this big group as this large, foreboding race that tries to spread their weirdly pseudo-religious influence across the galaxy. The alien
Okay.
is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him, his ignorance. Seek to understand his differences and equate him with his inadequacies.
Oh,
Only
rude.
then will he accept his place in the greater good. That is generally the Tau.
Okay.
And if you're kind of wondering like what their mainly big shtick is, well, they're all about
Okay.
big robots and mechs. They have laser rifles and rail guns. They
This
got
is my
giant mechs
society.
and tons of missile pods and
Yeah.
heavy rail rifles and rail guns and burst
I know who I'm
cannons and
playing.
ion accelerators and void shields and all this stuff. And that is generally what the Tau's all about. But you're
This is
probably
a
thinking,
Protoss.
Bricky, this doesn't sound that evil. This doesn't sound very grim, dark Warhammer.
No.
And you'd be right. The Tau Empire really don't have that much of a horrifying, grim, dark style like everybody else.
It's just
They're much more
kill
younger,
everything
new
anyway.
age thing. In fact, they're probably a lot less evil and a lot even better than they are now back in
Okay.
the day because they liked having like that good guy faction. But a lot of us who really like the dark, depressing style of Warhammer didn't really like it that much. So, see, the Tau get a lot of hate. And a lot of
Why?
that hate isn't necessarily unjustified. It's mainly from a tabletop perspective.
Why?
But as you can see from all the visuals I've shown you recently, they don't
Yeah.
really fit in the 40k universe very well.
The
They
theme.
lack that super dark, dramatic, kind of high gothic level the Imperium has. They don't have the weird kind of
yeah,
like
yeah, okay.
grungy stuff that Chaos or say the Orcs do. And the Necrons and the Eldar have their own specific style as well.
Okay.
The Tau really do look like something out of Gundam. And while it isn't necessarily a bad thing, it does
Yeah.
definitely not fit too well. There's that. There's also the tabletop problem. In tabletop, Tau are
Oh?
horrible at melee combat,
Oh,
but
no.
exceptionally good at range combat. So they blast everyone from
Makes
really, really
sense.
far away, and
Okay.
they have a million rules to make it so that it's nearly impossible for you to get into melee combat. So it basically just forces you to bottleneck the game into one specific gameplay style, which is gun to gun. And if you're doing gun to gun, they're going to win every time because they're the Tau, and the Tau are really damn good at shooting. So it's one of those things that make the Tau generally rather hated in a lot of different reasons for that, both from style and such. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to end this video with, is that the Tau, while they have their issues, you should not be discouraged from playing them.
They seem
I'll
fun.
make plenty of Tau weeaboo jokes. Of course I will, but it's all generally in good fun.
I think
Anyone who
continually
legitimately
has
doesn't want you
the
to play a
anime skirt
faction
legs.
is an idiot, and you shouldn't be giving them the time of day. You pick what you think is cool and what you
Yeah, have
like.
fun. Fuck
in
it.
Warhammer, especially now, factions get better and they get worse. They grow and then they fall.
Yeah.
You should only be playing what you think is cool. You like the look, you like the models. If
You
you're
like the
talking
feel.
tabletop, that is what you should be going for every time. Is what you
Yeah.
think is badass, because things change all the time. But the universe of Warhammer has so much going for it. Every faction has something interesting. Every character has a story, and there's a million stories to be told. The universe is vast and exciting, and while it is dark, depressing, and horrible, that is the damn charm. And out of everything I've told you in
Everything's
these
terrible
2 videos,
here.
if there's anything
Love
you can
this
take away,
universe.
is the reason why so many of us are so into this series and why we like
It's
it
so much
much.
lore.
Because with so much variety, such an expansive universe, and so much that can be done, you can find yourself having a pretty great time. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for
seems
watching
like
this
it. Hell
video. I
yeah.
hope it has been informative to you. If you'd like to see more of me, Bricky, you have twitch.tv/Bricky for my streams. You have my merchandise site, in which I was wearing all
Yep.
my merch, but underneath this, because I had to wear this so it wasn't black or white for the green screen, which is a little unfortunate, but it's fine. If you'd like to see merch, it is in the description. Also,
Oh,
if
the
you'd like to
turtles.
support me on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Bricky for more videos like this, then that would also be wonderful.
All right,
So
I'm gonna
Twitch,
cut it here.
merch,
Yo, there was that's so much information. I don't even know where I would even go back to for a review, but god damn.